It's my absolute pleasure to be joined by Anna Danylchuk again on the channel. I won't give a huge long introduction because I think everyone is perfectly familiar with her and her fabulous work advocating for Ukraine. Before we start, though, I wanted to draw attention to this. It's a fabulous t-shirt, and I have partnered with a company called American Apparel. It's a Ukrainian-run company operating out of the US, but also ships to Europe. They have thousands of fantastic designs. If you are interested, then go to the description area on YouTube, and you'll see a link to the site. I think it's 20 or 25% of the cost of these, or the price of these, actually goes to Car for Ukraine to help buy vehicles for brave defenders. So that's a new initiative here. If you like the products, and I think they are some of the nicest t-shirts, of course, Anna has the best t-shirts. I have to say that as well, in
No,
her
I
shop
like
as
this
well.
one too. I like this one too.
But by buying these products, you will be helping to buy armored vehicles to protect Ukrainian lives. And one of the vehicles that we crowdsourced through the marathon event that we did, it had quite a short life. It spent only a week on the front and then was utterly incinerated by a Russian drone. The key thing here is that the three servicemen who are in that vehicle survived with only minor concussion and scratches. And this is a testament to the fantastic work that Car for Ukraine do. So please buy a t-shirt, help to replace those vehicles and help to save Ukrainian lives. Anna, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Happy to be with you and your community. I've missed all of you.
It's been a long time, hasn't it? Again, we've had a big, horrible gap here, but I think the channel will be pleased to hear that we hopefully we'll pack in quite a few episodes between now and Christmas, and of course we'll do our usual. I'm hoping at least we'll do our usual Christmas or New Year special, which we've done
Yeah,
the
that
last
would
couple
be
of years.
great. Time to start planning.
Definitely, and fingers crossed. I mean, many on the channel know that I'm currently sort of crowdsourcing for the trip that I'm making to Kyiv. There's a chance that we may meet and do some recording there as well. So
Yes,
fingers
we
crossed
have
on
to.
that.
Yusuke is waiting for you. It's a little bit loud here, cold, but at the same time inspiring, and people can charge you with the energy and determination.
Absolutely. And of course, charge phone with phone banks because if people haven't followed the news, last night saw one of the largest strikes on Kiev, certainly this year, and possibly in the context of full-scale war, an absolutely vicious and indiscriminate attack, but also a very concerted effort to destroy energy supplies. And you're actually sitting in an apartment with no light and heat, I believe, at the moment.
Well, to tell you the truth, I do have heat, which is good. But yes, these months I'm a lot in Kyiv and can see how different life from the Western Ukraine here is. And last night I spent in the corridor, not the corridor of my apartment, but the corridor of the building next to the elevator that is believed to be the safest area because they started attacking us really quickly with drones, with ballistic missiles, and you literally did not have enough time to reach a shelter. Because when it all happens so quickly and ballistic travels really quickly, it's unstoppable. Sometimes it's better not to get outside, and you can hear all these sounds, all this shooting, air defense working. So it also happened during the electricity outage. So the experience was not that terrifying as you may think. Listening to me, I don't know how it works with us. Is it being tired or understanding that you cannot surrender? But I kept reading the news, commenting my videos, and literally comparing the updates coming from Russia, where we destroyed a huge arsenal of caliber missiles, and thus protecting ourselves from similar attacks coming. And Russians targeting, it seems to me, four apartment buildings in Kyiv. It's tragic, but it's definitely not a strategy to win. And you look at this like Ukrainians destroying Novorossiysk oil terminal, destroying a stock of caliber missiles, and Russians targeting people with drones sleeping in their beds. Just like insane.
it's not a strategy for victory. And
No.
you know, so a friend of mine was in Kiev with a military expert, and after every strike, he was like, "Okay, can we put a price tag? Can we put a price tag on what that attack
Yes.
cost? Hundreds of millions of dollars, like last night's attack would have cost."
Yes.
To take out apartments that are worth, I mean, the human life is there's no price you can put on human life, but the material value of what they're destroying is a fraction of what these missiles cost. It makes very little sense, it seems.
Of course, if you switch off emotions and you start thinking strategically, this also does not give them anything. Like the strategy of terror does not work with Ukrainians. We are not a nation that surrenders because we understand if you give terrorists what they want, you lose. They will want more, more, and more. So our task is just like to keep donating, to keep defending, and that's exactly what every Ukrainian wants to do during such night attacks. It's not like we're thinking, "Oh my God, we started liking Putin." No, we think just the country. So they actually raise our morale and our determination, and at the same time, they do not gain anything, but they keep destroying already empty Russia's budget. I've seen these numbers. They are not exaggerated. Sometimes during such attacks, they can spend more than approximately near $1 billion on threatening Ukrainian children and destroying apartment buildings.
The psychology, I think, is important. We talked a lot about, dare I say it, orc psychology or Kremlin psychology here. Do they actually think that these strikes are creating fear, are projecting fear and respect for, the Russian world concept? Do they think that that fear will eventually lead to people saying, "Oh, okay, we've had enough. We're now going to embrace the Russian world and forget Ukrainian and stop reading this, and we're all going to start reading Dostoevsky again"? What do they actually think? Or is this now tripped on to the point of erasure? They are simply minded to destroy and eradicate everything that is Ukrainian.
Well, you're right. First of all, it's visible for anyone who can analyze, I don't know, military strategy, who can analyze even open political speeches, propaganda speeches of the Kremlin, that their task is not Ukrainian territories. Their task is the destruction of Ukraine as a democracy, threatening the Russian imperial project being so close to them. Yesterday, I loved one comment coming from Estonia. I don't remember who was the author of that phrase, but the woman actually spoke about the size of the country, saying, "Look at Russia, the largest country in the world, and look at Estonia, really small country. Do you seriously think that Russia needs Estonian territory? No. Do you really think that Estonia threatens Russia? No. So if they speak negatively or threaten Estonia, it's just because it's needed for the restoration of the Soviet Union or the restoration of the imperial project. The same with Ukraine. So, but it's time to understand that Russia is not genius military force. It was exposed back in 2022. I think we were able to expose that back in 2014, but there were so many restrictions, escalation management, and other BS that totally failed, as the history demonstrated us. But Russians did travel with parade uniforms, believing that blitzkrieg was possible. And after that, they switched to these terror tactics that they were actively using in Chechnya, for example. And I loved watching one episode of Vitaly Portnikov, whom you also interviewed for the channel. I always watch his analytics. And he said that it's easy to recognize the same strategy they used in Chechnya during the Second War, because the First War Russia lost when it was about strategy, decision making, people's resilience. And then they started simply targeting and bombing civilian areas, mounting villages, killing hundreds of thousands of civilians. And that's a small country. That's a country located far from any potential allies. That's a country that happened in the mid of 90s when the international attention was very weak. And another problem that few people know enough about Chechnya, Dagestan, and all these republics now absorbed inside the Russian Federation. And by this terror, by the destruction of everything, they made people surrender because there is always a certain moment in time when you simply want to sleep and eat. And you don't have any energy or resources to do anything. But on the optimistic side, Portnikov spoke about the fact that Ukraine is a big country. We do have, like, if it turns super bad, we do have places to relocate, we have places to hide. Ukraine is a big country, it's not that densely populated. There are options. We have our own military production. You see, it's developing, and we managed to attract the attention of the world to Russian war crimes and breaking of the international law and so on. So these strategies that they simply will erase all of Ukraine would take like 100 years. That's what people estimate if Russia moves at this pace. So it will not work. But they are using it because that's the only strategies they have.
And they also believed, and this is interesting because I lived through the War on Terror, as it was called, and one of the Russian narratives, which of course we now know is completely manufactured, that somehow Chechnya was an absolute center of world Islamic terror, to rival Afghanistan, where Al Qaeda were based. They used this narrative, and it seems ridiculous now, but it worked. Many people were like, oh, yeah, well, Russia's got a terrorist problem. And they equated it to what had happened, 9/11 and the issues there. I won't even get into Iraq. Iraq obviously didn't have any Islamic terror, and that was just a dreadful decision and an awful mistake with a sort of again made up pretext. But they seem to think they could pull the same trick by calling Ukrainians Nazis and saying that Ukraine was the source of a new wave of sort of global far right terror. I think they thought they could get away with this narrative, but it didn't work because it's so utterly ludicrous. But they had a good attempt, and indeed there were many Western journalists throughout after the Maidan period, before the full-scale invasion, who unfortunately really did focus in and massively exaggerate the issue of far-right nationalism. But they also labeled it fascist, confusing, I would say, people who are nationalistic with those who are overtly fascistic. So it's incredible distortion of these narratives. I think they believed it could work.
Well, of course, it's a well-known technique, plus often practiced by Russia. First of all, they blame others for what they are doing themselves. And second, they do pick the words, the terms, the concepts that trigger us all, that are 100% negative, and always, unfold this awful images, for example, of the Nazi regime. So it was pretty easy to label and describe like that, but actually they never had a serious proof because when people travel to Ukraine, when people knew the history of Ukraine, they clearly saw that we are a very open and I'd say super like tolerant country. And even traveling around Europe, you may see that in Ukraine, people are way more excited about newcomers or foreigners than in many EU countries. So Russia uh, was like the center of information for many. That's the problem. Starting from universities and finishing with books, films, various media projects. Even journalists that did not want to be biased did not know where to get the information about Ukraine, Moldova, Belarus. They usually watched the events unfold in this part of the world via Moscow lens, Russia TV, via Dozhd or Moscow Times, which is like more opposition. But that's the problem. Is still in many countries of the world, when they say like Slavic studies, they mean Russian language, Russian literature. And it's really difficult to change this perspective. So the problem here is that many good journalists unintentionally had this bias because they were literally drinking water from the poisoned spring.
It's a challenging one, isn't it? Because, we had this incident just a few weeks ago, and actually she's coming back on December the 15th. Nitrebka, one of Putin's little, chums, is performing at the Royal Opera. And
Mhm.
this is the real problem, isn't it? People say, well, literature is literature, sport is sport, and politics is politics. But they don't understand the Russian hybrid war mentality, which is everything is a weapon. Everything a nation possesses is a weapon and is utilized and wielded as an offensive instrument.
Well, Russia has always invested billions in propaganda via different sources, like their artists, their ballets visiting. And most of these people who become prominent in Russia's cultural space are always friendly with Putin. They always send his messages. They always have tons of photos with them, sometimes on their Instagram account or Facebook or elsewhere, and sport in the same way. What's also many people forget about is that many countries have imperial past, and they look back at that past, they work on their mistakes, they speak about the crimes committed, they introduce programs that, I don't know, can maybe undo some of the evil. And in Russia, they, on contrary, remind school children about this former glory of the Russian Empire, about the need to teach uh, how they describe like worse, uneducated, smaller nations. And a lot of pieces of work, for example, of Pushkin, that are introduced, they speak about this imperial glory and the need, for example, to punish Poles or the need to punish nations of the Caucasus. And what's also interesting, uh, a lot of inscriptions left in the houses looted by the Russian soldiers are quotes from Pushkin. And Pushkin was Tsar's favorite poet, whose works were again translated extremely quickly because he usually reacted to what was needed to the Russian Empire, created poems that glorified, for example, the genocide of Cherkess people in the Caucasus. And later, Soviet Union put, it seems to me, the largest number of Pushkin's monuments exactly on the territories which he inspired to loot and destroy. So
Absolutely.
we are not talking about the artistic value, whatever you like, but we are talking about the messages that they try to find in that literature, deliver it to the hearts and ears of young generations, and to whitewash the invasion, the mass murders, as if inspired by the forefathers. So that's actually a sin against the Russian literature too. And
It's made me
unfortunately,
think, Hannah, how people don't examine. It really made me think.
many
Even
people,
intelligent people don't think deeply about these things because I had this argument with someone who is incredibly literate, incredibly clever. He's a lawyer. I had this argument recently, and he was like, yes, 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 but Russia does have a great literature. I'm like, this would be like me saying, let's reinvade Scotland because we have Anne Bronte and because,
yeah.
Dickens. You translate it, and it is so beyond absurd. And yet, Russia has, over generations, programmed us to accept utter absurdities as justification for their vile behavior, and we repeat it without examining it.
Yeah, first of all, ask that. lawyer, what books of the Russian authors in the 21st century did he enjoy reading? Because uh, did this literature die out?
They've
Let's
all
not
read
talk about the
Bulgakov. They
19th
all,
century.
it's all Master and Margarita, and then maybe
Well, like
Pasternak, and
we're
then
talking
that's
about
it. You know,
21st century, it's
they're done.
2025. I'm sure you can name me a
Oh,
lot of interesting and popular bestsellers that came from Great Britain since
but
2000.
this year, yes, this century, this is the
Nothing.
difference. Yeah, they won't name any at
Literally
all.
nothing, and nothing out of even like the Soviet era. I can speak for hours about that. I'm not sure
Yeah,
our audience will enjoy it, but even
we'll
in
save
Soviet
it for a
Union,
beer in Kyiv. Yeah, well,
yeah, or two. But even in Soviet Union, it was like 80% more probable that a Russian-speaking author will receive translations than any other, let's say, Kazakh or Turkmen. That was an intentional policy to push the Russian literature and to degrade all the others, and to send these books, for free to libraries, to pay people to promote them. That's like, from one point of view, that's what modern authors are doing, but in Russia, it was always a tradition on a state level. And very often during various book fairs or jazz festivals, they also organize meeting points for Russian oligarchs. That's exactly how they agreed on the building of the Nord Stream 2. It happened during some music festival where a lot of people could come with an official reason they are enjoying music together, but actually in between they were dividing the world.
I think, I'm going to be contentious here and apologize to everyone who's Ukrainian. There are a few books which it would actually be very helpful if they had read, because it would tell them the absolute moral degradation of Russia and its culture. I mean, one from the Soviet period, I think, would be Moskva Petushki, which is a terrifying book by Venedikt Erefeev, an alcoholic dissident intellectual. It paints a terrifying picture of the absolute degradation. It does it with humor. It's quite unusual. I mean, you have to go back to Gogol to find something as sort of amusing as that in Russian literature. Of course, he was Ukrainian. The other one is Sorokin, and Peter Pomerantsev, I know you've interviewed, says something very interesting about this. Sorokin is incredible, but it's not living literature. It's like an autopsy. It's like someone poking a cadaver and describing what killed it. That's kind of Sorokin. I think it would be instructive, actually, for those who go on and on about 19th century Russian literature to read him, because he paints a terrifying clinical picture of a country's whose soul has long since expired.
Yeah, that's interesting because I also see it that even in the work of Dostoevsky, you can clearly see a lot of problems with the Russian consciousness and the Russian mentality. But people choose to describe it as a mysterious Russian soul. And recently I've heard one Russian speaking that there is literally no mysterious Russian soul. What are you looking for? You're trying to, analyze this cruelty, misery, and ability to change around you as a mysterious soul, when in reality, that's just an active process of the degradation that you simply observe.
This is it. I mean, I think I've told you this one before, but some time ago, the idea of the Russian soul died for me based on one particular experience. And then rather than seeing this experience as something that was like, oh, that was a one-off, I then began to observe it over and over and over again. And that is when an ambulance or a fire engine is coming and trying to get through a sort of traffic jam, probka, people in this country will do everything to get out of the way. And I think most people in Europe, I assume, I can't say that from experience, but here people will hear the siren and they're looking around and they try to move their cars out of the way
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
somebody
Mhm.
is in distress. You don't
Yeah.
know that person, but this is the right thing to do. No, no one does that. Or when I was there, no one did that in Russia. They couldn't
Because
care
why?
less. Couldn't care
That's
less.
just like
It's no one I know. It's
whenever they can demonstrate this level of toxic like interference, I'm here, you gotta, they demonstrate like they don't have any power in their personal lives. They cannot make free decisions, they cannot elect a president, they cannot, I don't know, change what they want. So whenever they are in position to demonstrate some kind of power, they use it. And usually these are bad situations like this one. I have a power not to let the ambulance pass. It's not power, man. But that's how they feel. That's
yes.
how traumatized they are.
That's exactly right, and you completely failed to understand it. Unfortunately, as I said in a couple of my recent videos, I went to a sort of fairly major event earlier this week, where a lot of fantastic, strong Ukrainian voices were, including Olga Rudnyeva, who's the CEO of Superhumans.
Mhm.
She has extraordinary experience, and this is one event where you're going to get some bad questions from the audience. But without naming who this person was, we'd just gone through a whole day. I think there's like 7 panels, 4 or 5 people on each panel. There were a good dozen Ukrainians there, really strong, strong voices. Yevgeny Khlyvovitsky, if people don't know, he's on the channel.
Mhm.
He's a
Mhm. Mhm.
fantastic storyteller and thinker. And then a very senior analyst who's been observing this war like I have day in, day out, and Russia, etc., and geopolitics all his life, and he's certainly, I would imagine a bit older than I am. He said, "Well, this is wonderful. What wonderful Ukrainian voices." And then there's a little pause, but of course, and when someone says, "But of course," some dreadful nonsense is going to be uttered. He said, yes, but of course, to obtain a durable peace, he said, well, all wars have to end in negotiation, and to obtain a durable peace, Ukraine will have to make concessions. You do understand that. And it was as if he'd punched everyone Ukrainian in the face in that one moment, after all the effort, all the day, to say something that is so full of assumptions, so false, and based on such a misunderstanding of how Russia operates. Well, I'll let you unpack it because there's so many wrong things in that simple phrase.
Well, first of all, I feel that real experts don't want Ukraine to give up its territories to Russia. Even if they don't care about Ukraine at all, they understand that this opens a Pandora box. Because after the Second World War, we built some kind of peace and agreement, at least in the Western Hemisphere, and because everyone respected these borders stated and confirmed by everyone, this helped avoid a lot of conflicts. Because if we look at the map of the world, we will see a lot of disputable uh, territories, even in Europe.
Well, Prussia
Second,
disappeared. It amazes me. A third or so of Germany's territory is now Poland. So there are
So
some
it would lead
grievances which
to a
might,
lot of problems. You may
yeah.
say, no, this wouldn't. No, if you see that one person is permitted to do that, then people like maybe not today this country will want to change country A, B, C, but tomorrow they will have a different government or something will happen, or I don't know, they will encounter a crisis and they will try to solve it via invasion as Putin did. But this opens a Pandora box because if the law is not working for one party, then it's not working for anyone. Second, Russia confirmed the borders of Ukraine not once, beginning from the agreements after the Second World War and finishing with a lot of documents, agreements, resolutions after the collapse of the USSR. There are tons of documents that prove that the Kremlin, official Kremlin, was okay with the borders of Ukraine, with the borders of Belarus, with the borders of Moldova. What happened? So if we allow to, call back your voice, your sign, signature, or anything, that once again we create dangerous precedents. And how do we know that in 2 days or 3 days or 5 years, Russia will not say it again? Like, based on what? This new dispute appeared because they signed 4 Ukrainian regions into their constitution. But that's illegal. With the very same success, you or we can sign 5 Russian regions into our constitution. And what? We can even persuade Georgia or Lithuania to do the same, like simultaneously.
You
This
have a good
doesn't
case
work
for
like that.
Belgorod and Kursk. They were
Yeah.
ethnic Ukrainians, majority speaking areas,
Yeah, but just like,
until
I'm
the early
sorry,
20th
it doesn't
century.
work like that. If you
Yeah.
sign someone's car into your property, it doesn't become yours if you didn't have any consent or something. So this is an important thing. And again, so you want to offer Putin a prize for violating order, killing people, destroying all of that. He will get the territories. And the question to that expert, does he really think it's about the territories?
The
Is
answer
he
is,
that
unfortunately, yes.
non-professional?
A lot of them
Again,
do. A lot of them believe it
Russia is the
is.
largest country in the world. They don't need new territories. They don't have enough money to take good care of their own territories.
That's it. As we repeat often, what percentage of Russian households do not have indoor plumbing? Euphemism for toilets, and have to
Mhm.
go out to a little wooden shed in the garden. I mean, it's actually
It's
quite a
really
high
good if it's a
number.
shed in the garden, not just bushes.
It's well, you're lucky, yes, if it's a shed. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially out in the sort of villages and out in the countryside. There's so many sort of assumptions in there. That also then assumes that somehow we can offer something that will satisfy Russia, that somehow we can give a piece of Ukrainian territory and we'll make it all stop, we'll make it all go away. That seems to ignore several fundamentals here. One is Russia's already shown that it breaks the treaties that it signs. So the idea of a durable peace is already a nonsense. Any peace is contingent on the Russian strength to restart their aggression. Also, there is the idea implicit in that this somehow is a local conflict, a regional conflict over territory, when in fact it seems to me this is and always has been, a global attempt by Russia, once it felt strong enough, to re-exert its position in the world. Ukraine is a stepping stone towards a larger empire of control and the destruction of the NATO alliance, the Western alliance, and ultimately probably the EU as well. In fact, any institution, any organization, any power, any rule of law that stands in their way.
Yeah, sure. And I believe all countries that are on a menu in Putin's idea understand that and they speak about that openly. That's why we have tremendous support from, for example, the Baltic countries. And I think that's a part of this desire to deceive yourselves that, like, okay, we don't know Ukraine, Russia wants something from Ukraine, maybe Russia gets it and forgets. No, they openly speak that they are at war with the Western civilization. And of course, again, it's about Russia's new Russia geopolitical role. It's about the desire simply to restore the USSR and then to keep expanding. And again, they don't need new territories. Ukraine did not attack them. It was not, it's obvious that NATO did not prepare an invasion because you see, NATO does not want to take down Russia's drones on their territory. So, not just that. So, I
Yeah,
think that expert was not an expert. I'm sorry. His long experience or senior age does not make him one.
yeah. And unfortunately, there are far too many people even now who will call themselves pro-Ukrainian, but will come out with I would say absurdities that demonstrate they have no understanding of how Russia functions and thinks and so on. Another one, because this is an episode of rage, I think. I don't know what thumbnail I'll give it, but there's a lot of rage-inducing topics. Another one, of course, and this was to an extent sort of quite interesting to observe. I've been making the case for a long time that Russia has never had democracy. In fact, the culture of pluralism, the culture of defending rights has never really evolved there. So when people get angry, when they get upset, when they actually protest, occasionally they protest in Russia, it's usually over privileges. It's not over universal rights. It's over things that are taken away from them personally. There was an example just a few weeks ago where some new parking enforcement, fairly expensive, punitive parking enforcement in, I think, an area of Moscow was introduced. And guess what? It triggered a massive protest, quite a vociferous one. But it's not about politics, it's about someone's individual privilege that's taken away. And the decision was also made to deny the ability to Russians to get multi-entry Schengen passports into Europe, visas into Europe. Oh my God, that has triggered so much anger, which many of these people, not all, because some have been outraged by the war, but many of the people who are outraged by the Schengen decision, um, they've never uttered that form of outrage when it comes to the crimes being committed by their country against Ukraine.
Yeah, all the protests that happen in Russia or may happen in Russia are caused by problems, usually economic problems, or where they don't have heating, or when they cannot get, gas, or they need to, I don't know, um, they don't have internet because they started switching off not just mobile internet, but internet in general. So that's a big deal, but they never speak for Ukraine or the desire to stop this war or any other wars that Russia initiated. And I don't know why, what's wrong with the global community that keeps excusing Russia for that.
That's it. And let's not even get on to Yulia Latinina, who is an
Yeah,
absolute
yeah, no, no, no. Let's
vile
not
piece of
promote her,
nonsense.
like she's a crazy person. Like we can only sympathize her.
And yeah, no, the other instance of protest usually is, the Orthodox Church is going to rip up someone's park to build some new, gold-lined church. Um, there are instances where people will come out, but it's all to do with personal privilege and status and something that is tangible to them as an individual. Beyond that, they're incapable of abstract politics. So the
Usually
last,
something
yeah.
material, very material. It's not about
It's
like
very material, very direct that affects them personally.
yeah.
And
What
they've
are
got the
those values they
yeah.
talk about?
The question here, and this is the last one here, is how is Ukraine so different? Because in running this for 4 years, I've realized that there's a generosity, and it's not just because Ukrainians are under fire. There's a generosity that people have in giving their time, giving their thought, their attention. In the context of my channel, absolutely. But it's not just because they're nice people. It's because they are imagining an opportunity to create something for other people that's bigger than themselves, that aligns with values that go beyond their personal interest and experience. There's no other way to describe that. It's not just because Ukrainians are nice. It's because they see the world differently. How will you explain it?
I don't know, I'm Ukrainian. Well, I think that we live next to Russia, and border between Ukraine and Russia is the border between the free world and the authoritarian rule. And it's so wrong to keep, rebooting relations with Russia that every US president or EU leadership does, believing they can become a part of this democratic civilization when they cannot. They come from a totally different background with totally different values, and they actually build their world according to this authoritarian rules that they share, for example, with China. And Ukraine is different. And when you live in this context of terror, when you live in this constant danger, you value life and you see what's important in life. And you also realize how important unity is, how important is to be a friend to each other, like not to destroy each other, but on contrary to strengthen. Because if you help your neighbor will help you. If you help your friend will help you. And that's how we survived during these years of the active war. And I guess this same attitude multiplies to our allies, to people who share this respect, to freedom, to dignity, to an ability to choose your future, and so on.
I know your phone battery. I don't want to sort of drain it all because
Yeah.
you're going to need that for other stuff. So that's where we'll stop today. But I do promise the audience we will have more conversations and eliminate these big gaps that happen between the conversations. And hopefully, fingers crossed, get to meet up and carry on this discussion in Kyiv. And you can help me with my pronunciation as well. I think it's
Kyiv,
improving
yes,
slowly.
you
Kyiv.
are way better. You are way better. Some more visits to Kyiv and you will pronounce it the very Ukrainian way.
And
Thank you
then
so much,
we'll have to
Jonathan.
start on other towns as well, you know, and then
Yeah, practice. Practice makes perfect. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for having this amazing community of friends of Ukraine.
thank you. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава!